Hi everyone. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the neuron. Now, the neuron is the basic functioning unit of the nervous system. All right. This here is responsible for transmitting impulses. Okay, transmitting impulses from a part of the body to another or between neurons. Okay. Now, these impulses transmitted could be chemical impulses or electrical impulses. Okay. So let's take a look at the neuron now. Now, the neuron actually is divided into three major parts. We have the head part, the middle part, and the terminal. All right, and these have their names. Now let's look at the this part that looks like a finger-like structure. Okay, so this part is called the dendrite. Dendrite. Now, this part is like the input of the neuron. It receives signals, right? It receives signals, impulses from other neurons. Okay, so for it to receive an information, it needs to be very close to another neuron, and I'm going to talk about that when I come to the terminal, right? So this is called the dendrite. Now, this part here is called the soma, or you say cell body. Now, just like every other cell, it contains the organelles that is able to synthesize proteins. Okay, that's able to synthesize protein. So it has the nucleus, the mitochondria, and others. The ribosome that is able to synthesize protein for different activities carried out by the neuron. All right. Now, moving ahead, there was this part immediately after the cell body that is swollen a little. It is called the axon hillock. The axon hillock. The axon hillock. Now, this part is very important because if or when the dendrite receives a signal and it moves into the cell body, if that signal is strong enough, this part is going to generate what we call an action potential, right? So there's that action potential that moves the impulses straight to the terminal and it jumps into the next neuron. So that is what happens here. Here, the axon hillock generates action potentials. All right. Now, this part, I would like to call it the highway. It is termed the axon. The axon. Okay. So this part is the axon. This is the highway in which impulses pass through to the other neuron or the other part of the body. All right. So it's called the axon. Now, this other part is called the axon terminal. Okay. So that is the end of the axon terminal. All right. Now, at the axon terminal, it is oftentimes in close association with another dendrite of a neuron. So this is like what you have here, the dendrite. This is a dendrite of another neuron. So this is a dendrite of another neuron. So the axon terminal is in close association with another dendrite of another individual neuron, right? But the axon terminal does not touch the dendrite of the next neuron. So there is a little or tiny gap between the axon terminal and the dendrite, and that gap is called the synaptic gap or cleft. Okay. Now that gap is very important. I'm going to be talking about what happens in that gap when I talk about synapses. Okay. So these impulses just jumps into this space and is taken by the dendrite of the other neuron. All right. Now this is just a basic structure of the neuron. But in most cases, neuron comes in different shapes, different size, but they have the same basic structures. All right. Now, in some neuron, you would find something attached to the axon. All right. So you find things like this attached to the axon. Now, these things attached here are called the myelin sheath. The myelin sheath. All right. So let me label it here. Myelin sheath. Now, it is very important, but not all. It is not all neuron that has. That is why I didn't draw the myelin sheath at first. Okay, the myelin sheath serves or acts like an insulator. So you have like a wire and you have the insulator around the wire. That is what the myelin sheath functions as. Okay, so the myelin sheath acts as an insulator. What it does specifically is that it makes sure that the impulses that is transferred is fast enough. Okay, so it increases the speed of the electrical impulse that moves along the axon of the neuron. Okay, so they make sure it is faster. Now, in between the axon is what we term the node of Ranvier. So this space between each axon is called the node of Ranvier. The node of Ranvier. Now, it's also important because it makes signaling. It makes the passing of signal faster, right? So in most cases, instead of the signal or the impulses to go straight, it goes in an oscillatory motion where it will just jump from one node of Ranvier to the other. Okay, so you have things like this from here to here to here.